Hello and welcome to another live stream from ED-SKaR. That would be me. And today I have something a little bit interesting. Previously I have done my tournament battle reports as videos where I script them up and I present them in that format. But I've been thinking that maybe I can do a different kind of take on things if I just do my tournament vlogs as videos, as live streams instead of as videos. And we're going to try that out today. So I have all of the pictures, as you can see on screen here. I've got a bunch of pictures of my previous event. I have pictures of my army that I brought and the interesting things that happened along the way. Surely I should be able to bring out the same things, but if we are looking at things in a more casual way rather than the formal scripted way that I usually do, maybe we can come up with just a different way of thinking about the games, and maybe that is interesting. I think what I shall start off with, just to see if we can get things at least partially moving, is have a look at the forces that I brought. That's always the thing that I start off with. So if you give me a second, I will move over to this picture here. I may have to just shrink my webcam down a little bit. There we go. So this is the force that I brought. It is 1,250 points for Konflikt 47, and as you can see, I've brought my Imperial Japanese, or rather the Empire of Japan. I have on screen a assault platoon. At the back is an artillery platoon, and then the walker is just a lone walker platoon by themselves. And I have already noticed one thing that I want to be able to do that I have not set up, because this is a test of the system. I haven't figured it out. I haven't figured out anything yet. So what I'm just doing, if you give me a moment, I'll have this all sorted out, because I want to point at stuff on screen. And what better way of pointing to stuff on screen than with a giant red arrow? Right. I'll keep the red arrow down here just for the moment. So, along the front, I have my assault platoon. At the back, I have an artillery platoon. And they are all mundane bolt action units. There's no Konflikt 47 specific units in there, so that's quite interesting to bring. And then at the back here is my Sasori Scorpion mech in an armored walker platoon, but because it's just the single walker by itself, doesn't need to bring a command vehicle along. So along the front here, we have, wrong thing, that one, there we go. So along the front, we have my officer, and originally I was planning to bring both the assault platoon officer and the artillery officer as 3 models, all in the assault frame, because the assault frame is fantastic. However, I ran out of points. In fact, I was well over points and had to cut back. And so my artillery officer, we'll get to him in a moment, but he's just a mundane model rather than the assault frame. But the assault platoon is led by an assault frame officer, 3 models here. Andre van der Vlies, good evening. Sickness and Charlie Bravo Alpha conquered, I see. Well, hopefully some success will be brought out of that. So the assault platoon's officer, 3 models, and they have the disposable missile launchers. In fact, you can see this guy here is from the starter set. He's the one carrying the missile launcher. And so they can, at any turn in the shooting, as a shooting action, they can use either a single disposable rocket, single Panzerfaust, or once per game they can use them all, and they roll d6 and have that many, up to a maximum of the unit of the models in the unit, which is 3. So if there's a panic moment, I can drop 3 Panzerfaust shots, or I can have that reliable 1 per turn continuously. We shall see how that goes. Otherwise, they have no upgrades at all, so they're in the assault frame with submachine gun and the close combat weapon. That means they're all rolling 3 attacks each, and all of that is at +1 pen, so that is very deadly. On top of that, this squad here, slightly out of focus, is an assault frame infantry squad. So there's 5 models in there. They have no upgrades at all, just the bog standard assault frame, 3 attacks each, and we'll see how they do. Let's move to the next image. Another thing I've worked out in this stream already, now that we've literally just started, this system of changing image is not particularly the smoothest, so I'll work on that for the next time. Also, clicking on the wrong thing doesn't help. There we go. My next infantry choice right here is my Ashigaru. Now, in the previous tournament, I ran my Ashigaru as a veteran rifle squad with the Shiboru rifle. This time, they are a battle frame squad, but still with that Shiboru rifle. Hello, Out West. Does the paint scheme represent actual noble house, or do you just like blue? I very much like blue. I'll come back to this later on, but just briefly. The paint scheme and the primarily being blue is because you see a lot of samurai stuff in modern media being red, and it's just predominantly red. And red is cool, but it's all red. But if you look at paintings of the era, samurai and the noble houses were in all sorts of different colours. And so I just wanted to be a different colour. But I also wanted to be relatively coherent as a force, and so I wanted just one colour, and I really like blue, and so we went with blue. Butter Mountain, Banzai at 07 to you as well, good friend. Right, so the Ashigaru have been upgraded. So the Shiboru Rifle Squad are veteran with 5+ damage value. The battle frame is damage value 6. They're still veteran, damage value 6 because of the armor, and that's what I've done to them there. The only difference between the two squads, assuming you take the Shiboru Rifle, the only difference between the squads is the damage value. So they've just gone from armor 5 to armor 6. And I've also got 10 in the squad, whereas previously I had 7. So this is a much more survivable unit than what I had before. 5 to 6, and then on the damage roll, and then 7 to 10 models. These are going to stick around much more than my Ashigaru did in the previous event. If anyone saw that video, you'll know whenever anyone shot at this squad with anything of substance, they just were gone. And I had that in all 3 games. And so we'll see if the games this time, if that armor and the extra numbers can help them out. So next up is another infantry squad here. And this here is my zombie squad, the Shibito. And I have here a Stahltruppen Shibito. And here I have a Firefly Shibito. So I've been doing a bit of kit bashing and conversion to make some interesting models for my zombies. And yeah, I've painted some more models, and so I wanted to bring them along. They had to come at some point, really. I'm not otherwise they're exactly the same as I've taken before. There's no upgrades for them, and there's a unit of 6. So moving on to the next image, we have my small teams. And the fun one, clicked on the wrong thing every single time. I'm going to remember this eventually. There we go. Is this one. I'm really happy with this model. I love this model. So this is Onobegeisha. Onobegeisha? That's not correct. I can't remember. That's going to annoy me. She's one of the Japanese yokai. She's the snow woman. And in Japanese folklore, she will go out during blizzards and kind of end people who have maybe been a bit a bit too confident about going out in blizzards and that kind of thing. There's a lot more lore and history to her than that, but just as an overview, that's kind of a brief summary of what she is. But in this game, I'm bringing her as an artillery observer, a forward artillery observer, because, well, she's my artillery witch. We're not playing Trench Crusade, but I'm bringing an artillery witch. We're going to see if... I want to see air observers and artillery observers, how effective they are in bolt action. And I just thought, this is such a cool model I painted a few years ago, and I think it fits really nicely with the aesthetic. Awesome out west. Kit Bash is the best bash. I think most of this army, most of my Konflikt models are converted in some way. It's not always Kit Bash, but some conversion here or there. So yes, she is just an artillery observer, and with a pistol. I haven't given her any upgrades. It's a real shame about the artillery, about the both types of observer. You can't give them the armor. You can't give them the energy sword. You can't give them any rift weapon. They are copy pasted directly out of the bolt action rule armies of books. Oh, actually, out of the army list in the rulebook as well. They have nothing specific for Konflikt, nothing extra, and so can they be useful with just the artillery barrage that they bring in? That's the question. Down here, this is very similar to what I brought last time. It's more Ashigaru models with Shiboro rifle, and this is a sniper team. The Japanese sniper team with the Shiboro rifle is really, really interesting. Last time I brought them, and they did not do very well at all, and that's because I just kept missing. 3+ to hit. 3 games, 4 or 5, 6 turns a game. I maybe got 1 hit. Ridiculous. What I have done in this event is I've actually saved some points by making them regular instead of veteran. It's only a 10-point difference, and honestly, if they're going to be rubbish, I'm going to just take those 10 points and spend them somewhere else. Up here is a bolt action unit. So the artillery observer is in the Konflikt 47 army lists, but there's no difference between that and the bolt action version. They are identical. This model is not in the Konflikt 47 list, but and so this is one of the bringovers from bolt action to Konflikt that you can do. And in our groups, we're allowing anyone to bring anything from bolt action because there's nothing in bolt action that is so overpowered that it's a problem. There just isn't. But this, as you may recognize, is a lunge mine. Now, he is veteran. 26 points to make him veteran. Well worth it. And we shall see how he performs. Against most vehicles, tanks and wheeled vehicles, it's going to be just as effective as a bolt action version. Against walkers, we had this discussion during one of the games and we were reading the rulebooks. We didn't actually have a bolt action rulebook to hand, but we had a look since then, and I think we did it correctly. Because if you charge a walker with infantry, you fight a round of combat, and the walker always fights first. It's one of the rules of walkers. But the lunge mine doesn't fight a round of combat. It charges the vehicle and then immediately sets off its ability, the explosive. And so, when you charge a lunge mine into a walker, if you were to fight a round of combat, the walker would fight first, but you're not fighting a round of combat. So you just blow up the explosive and do that damage. That still means that the lunge mine is going down, but that's a standard rule of the lunge mine, but it does always go through to cause that hit. That's how we've read the rules, that's how we understand it, and that's how our discussion after the fact has happened as well. Until we get some clarification from Warlord Games on that. Someone has sent an email about this. And hundreds of other things, I'm sure. Until we get official word, this seems like the reasonable answer. And then the Sasori, my own walker, exactly the same as last time. It's armor 8, twin machine gun in the front, and the Shiboro cannon in the tail. And we shall see if I can get that Shiboro cannon into the right position, because getting both hits. So the way that the Shiboro cannon works, it has 2 shots, and if you use the Rift ability and it hits with both shots, then it gets 3 hits, not 2. And against infantry, you get 3 hits at pen 2. Against a vehicle, they combine and you get a single pen 6 hit, which can be very dangerous. So the Shiboru cannon can potentially kill anything, can kill any armored vehicle, even the heaviest of walkers. But it's getting those 2 hits, because you need both shots to hit, and that is less likely. So let's go on to what should be this picture. Yes. So this is my artillery platoon. So at the front, I have an officer. And as I mentioned before, I didn't have the points to put him in the armor. I would love to have made him 3 models in assault frames, but I just didn't have the points. I had to cut back. And so he is not only not in the armor, but it's actually a single model. Because I had just kept cutting back and cutting back. He is armed with a grand total of a pistol. He does have his sword. He has the energy sword, so if he does get in close combat with someone, he still has +1 pen. And the interesting thing here is, even though I'm taking him as this minimal version of the officer, you can still give him the point of guts. And I have given him the point of guts. I've given both of my officers guts. And so that may be the most useful thing he can do, is spend that point of guts on something important. But an artillery platoon obviously has to bring some artillery. And I have 2, one here and one here. They're both the same. They are both twin autocannons. So they're the anti-air autocannon, twin mount, 4 shots each. Really nice. We'll see how much damage they can put out over the course of the game. In a recent bolt action game, I played with a pair of heavy machine guns, and so I'm kind of thinking about using these autocannons in a similar way to how I use those heavy machine guns in bolt action. I can either put both in a really good forward position together and move my forces up directly under the support of those guns, or I can put them on opposite sides of the board to provide a wider but less heavy covering of fire. And it really depends on the terrain of the board as to what decision I make each time. I can't say, this is my plan going in. It's when I see the board, I have to just decide then and there where they go. And because they're artillery, they do count as artillery still. I have to decide before I put them on the board, because once they're on the board, they're moving 6 inches per turn. Now I do have a truck, and the truck has a machine gun, and I'm going to spoil one thing for the rest of the video. I forget completely forget that my truck has a machine gun. I think I shot it once all day, even though I could have shot it a lot more than that. But I brought the truck with the artillery platoon. However, it's going to spend most of its time transporting the assault frame squad and my assault frame officer, because those guys really want to be up close and sticking their noses into the opponent's business. And so they're going to be on the truck in pretty much every game. It's my angry truck tactic. I've talked about this multiple times on multiple videos. Anyone who's seen that before will know what that means. Ratman says, are the machine gun models on double stacked bases? No, that's just... let me go back to it. It's just the shape of the base rim. So what Paul is referring to here is this like double lip here on the bases. No, it's just that they're a single piece, but I 3D printed them, and the print I have has this kind of concave shape to it on the sides, so they end up looking like that. I think this one actually, where's my arrow gone? So this one here, it looks like there's a print defect actually in that line. It should not. It should be smooth like this one, but I don't know, maybe a layer skip or something. Anyway. Right, so that is my 1,250 points of Empire of Japan for Conflict 47. Before we go into the first game, if I can have a sound off of everyone in the chat, check how my audio is. Can you all hear me clearly? Is the music at an appropriate level? Should be able to hear the music. Should be nice, aggressive metal music in the background, but it should be quite quiet so that we can hear, so that you can hear my voice, because I'll be talking a lot for the next forever. It's what I do. Yeah. So the general form of what my list is supposed to do is... Done it again. I'm going to change that. Assault frames on the truck are going to race up and cause trouble in the background. My Sasori is going to go up with them, probably. My autocannon teams, I've got 4 autocannons there between the two chassis, so they can provide a lot of fire support. And then along with the sniper and the forward observer, they're going to be kind of fire support elements as well. And then I've got the battle frame Ashigaru and the Shibito to kind of push up through the middle and do whatever infantry stuff needs doing. Although, importantly, the Shibito cannot take objectives directly, but they can support other units that can. Audio good. Barely any music. Okay. I might just turn up the music a little bit if everyone can let me know if it gets too loud. Let's just give it a 5% boost there. And now, with that, we can talk about game number 1. Right, so this is the table for game number 1. We have some swamp terrain. Let's point these out. So we have some swampy terrain here and here. I think there's another one behind my webcam view as well. And this is, if you're shooting over it, completely open ground. If a model is touching it or in it, then they get soft cover. And if they're moving through it, it's treated as rough ground. We've got some hay fields around the edge. This does block line of sight, rough ground, and light cover, and then in the same way as you normally would treat kind of tall grass. We've got some line of sight blocking, shipping crates. These rocks here and here will be heavy, basically the same as the ruins. Heavy cover, blocking line of sight through it, heavy cover if you're in it and can be shot at. And that's that. So the mission objectives, there are 2 mission objectives. This one here is in the dead center of the board, and then you can just about see it here. You can just about see the edge of the plastic disc I use for objectives. And that is underneath the crates there, and that is an interesting way of doing things, because I'm used to having 3 or 4 or 5 objectives, whereas now, or 1 objective. I'm not used to having 2. And what that means is that you need to hold both objectives to win. Because if you hold 1 and your opponent holds 1, that's a draw. And so you absolutely have to win both objectives. You have to take both objectives to win the game. And so my plan is to push most of my force through this open ground here, take the middle objective first, reinforce it on this side with my fire support units, and then on this side I provide some more fire support units and kind of move from the middle this way and move my fire support units in as well to take the other objective. My plan was always to take this one first and then fight over this one. Either way, even if I'd have switched that round, it would have been difficult because the terrain leading here doesn't favour me as much. But it's bad to take the centre objective because that's easier for my opponent to contest. This is going to be a really tough fight any way you slice it. So here's my deployment on my right-hand flank. So my Sasori and my Shibito here are moving in to attack kind of this side. My Sasori is going to move up here towards the center objective, and my Shibito are more of a distraction than anything, and they're planning to go around this side. And then I've got some of my fire support units here in support of that. So this is my center and my left now. And I have one of my autocannons. Done it again. One of my autocannons here and my forward artillery observer. But you can see that, like I mentioned, I'm pushing up that center, that open ground, that clear open ground I have with my battle frame and my truck full of assault frame. I'm pretty much on the objective already, but I'm holding my truck behind this wall to see what my opponent does, because I really need my opponent to move up. Rather than just aggressively throwing that truck forwards like I sometimes do, I'm going for a counter attack this time. And that might just throw the game in my favour. Or it might just throw the game. So here we have the right-hand side objective with my Shibito moving up. My Sasori has now moved all the way into the middle, so this is the centre building it's on. You can see in the background there's a squad of infantry and some Stalltroopen, and those Stalltroopen will become relevant soon. But hiding just behind this shipping container here is a truck. And that truck has Totem Core on it. And a full squad of 12. And that changed everything. So the Totem Core, just like my Shibito, cannot take objectives. But what they can do is completely block my entire army from doing anything. Killing 12 Shibito is a lot of work. Shibito, Totem Core. Killing 12 Totem Core is a lot of work. And you have to wipe them out basically in one go, because otherwise they will use their ability to come back. And it's almost impossible to do that. So you really have to focus them down. And I would have had to focus my entire force to do that. And I just couldn't. And so instead of trying to focus them down and wiping them out, I just let them do their thing. And that changed the game completely. So if I go back to my overview here. So we're talking about this objective on the right hand side. My original plan, take the center, move over to the right. But my opponent has put Totem Core down here. And that means two things. One, it means I'm never getting to that objective because I'm never cutting through that many Totem Core. But my opponent made the mistake of not supporting them with any infantry that can take an objective. What that means is that not only can I not take that objective, neither can my opponent. And so in this action, and I don't think this was necessarily deliberate, but my opponent has turned this from a 2 objective game to a 1 objective game, and that favours me so much. That is not necessarily a mistake on my opponent's part, but it's something that I'm going to take advantage of, and I'm going to fight for this central objective, and I'm just going to ignore that right hand side. Those Totem Core, they can have their fun, they can have that objective all they want. I'm fighting for the centre now. And I think we are on this picture. Yes, we are. So let's move on to the next picture. Right. This is good fun. So my opponent brought up some Shrek Wolves here. Some Totem Core here. This is the second squad of Totem Core. Stahltruppen. This is the second squad of Stahltruppen that my opponent has. And this is that same rifle squad we mentioned earlier. They've run forwards up into the building. So they don't technically take this objective yet, but they are in a strong position over it. And with these Schreckwolfen on the side, supported by the Spinner, the small Spinner, and also, you can just about see it on the top there, there is the Heuschrecker, the Locust, battle mech up there. So they've pushed up. And that's what I wanted. So now that my opponent's pushed up, I can see where their models are positioned, how they're planning on taking the board. I can now deal with that. I put a lot of firepower into the werewolves, and I only killed one of them. And so I had to deal with them. They are going to be... It's either the werewolves or the Totem Core. They're the big, tough units that are hard to kill. 12 Totem Core... I'm not going to get through them, but 3 wolves? I should be able to kill 3 wolves. I should be able to kill 3 wolves. We'll see how that goes. So I shot them up as much as I could to begin with, and I killed one of them. I used the truck to bring up the assault frames, and I used the submachine guns here to put a couple of pins on the Spinner. I'll mention this straight away, even though this is over the whole game. The Spinner here failed 3 morale tests because of those pins, and that's great. I think it's got 3 pins at this point. So 1 pin was from the artillery observer, no, 2 pins from the artillery observer, and then 1 pin from these submachine guns and 1 pin from these submachine guns. So it's already got 4 pins right away, straight away at the beginning of the game. It's got 4 pins, and it spent most of the game not doing anything. Andre van der Wiel says, learning Japanese and German. Well, I have a lot of the Stahltruppen models. I've got some other German models as well for Konflikt. I'm going to play the Japanese for a bit, and then I'll switch. And I'll do Americans and Germans, because I've got those. And I'll get British and Soviets. I'm going to play every nation. It's just going to happen. So, another point of interest. This is my officer. My officer has the snap to action ability. My officer also has a point of guts. And in this turn of the game, I use them both. Firstly, I snap to action the truck to drive it up into position, jump out with the officer and use a missile on the werewolves and the submachine guns on the Spinner. And then I also snap to action this squad, submachine guns on the Spinner. But you notice this squad doesn't have their order die on the table. That is because I use a point of guts to put their order die back in the bag. And that means that when I bring that order die back out, or when I bring another order die out, I can make this unit activate twice. And I hope you can see what's going to happen here. 5 models in assault frame. They have deadly 2. They have a submachine gun as well. For tough fighters, they get 3 attacks each. All of those attacks, 15 attacks, hit automatically in close combat, and all of those attacks are at +1 pen, which means that the werewolves, instead of going down on 7s, are going down on 6s. So I have 15 dice, and all I need to roll is 2 6s. There's 2 models in there, and if I can just get those 2, I can wipe them out. Well, I roll my 15 dice, and I get 1 6. My opponent rolls their dice, and they get 2 or 3. I can't remember exactly. It doesn't matter. It's enough to force a second round of combat. Now, I don't run away immediately. I would have run away immediately, but all of the Japanese are fanatics. That's such a good rule for small units of assault frame. Unfortunately, in the second round of combat, I don't kill anyone, and the werewolves wipe me out. So I'm done. That was an expensive... I don't want to say failure, but it was a risk I took and it didn't pay off. So my assault frame squad here are now gone. Werewolves have been cut from 3 to a single model, so that's good. And I've got loads of pins on the walker who is now useless. So my officer is now all by himself in the middle of the enemy, and that's not great. Moving on to the next picture. Yeah, so this is a little bit of a mistake on my opponent's behalf. Not necessarily, although it didn't pan out for them the way they maybe thought it would. It wasn't necessarily a mistake as such, but it certainly was a missed opportunity, shall we say. And actually, the one thing I really like about this picture is this is my Stahltruppen Shibito, and the very first game they play in, they're up against an actual Stahltruppen. That's beautiful. So I'm going to go back to my overview of the table. And I'm going to point out that this is all happening. This little fight I'm talking about is happening here. So it's on this side of these crates, these shipping containers. But the objective is on this side of the shipping containers. Infantry need to be within 3 inches of an objective to take it, and these containers are essentially 3 inches wide. And what that means is if you're here, you can't take the objective. Stahltruppen and the Shibito, doesn't matter, they can't take the objective anyway, but the Stahltruppen can. Not only are the Stahltruppen an infantry squad, but this is actually my opponent's officer. You can tell by the cape. Cape means he's important. That's how the capes work. But because my opponent brought the Stahltruppen down this alley rather than immediately next to it where they could have taken the objective, we're still on that one objective mission that I spoke about. Also, that's a really cool picture. So, back to the center of the board. My Sasori here, we'll probably talk about that in a moment, but we can see that my officer, my artillery observer, moved up, and my officer is going to use point of guts on my Sasori. Again, we'll talk about it later, but I just want to point out that my officer is here doing that. We've got the Axis Rifle Squad in the building here, and you'll notice that a moment ago we said that my opponent had a unit of Stahltruppen in this building, and now, well, the Stahltruppen aren't there, but my assault frame officer is. And that's because I had the choice. Earlier, we saw that I killed 2 of the 3 werewolves with the main assault frame squad. And either I go after the 3rd one with my officer, my assault frame officer, finish him off. But at that point, my officer can't do anything else. That's all my officer can do. But I have fire support elements over there. I have one of my autocannons over there. I have my Shibito battle frame nearby. So I've got a lot of things that might be able to kill it. But if I use my officer, the officer is never going to be able to do anything else. It's not going to get back to the center of the board before the end of the game. And so I chose instead that my officer would run into the middle, keep close to the objective to support the other units here. And they did that by just charging the Stahltruppen and annihilating them in close combat. I think 3 models versus 3 models, but I have a massive advantage because of the assault frames. I think I killed 2 out of the 3 and he killed none. Easy win. The rifle squad had a single pin on them. And I decided that 1 pin wasn't enough, so I shot a lot of stuff at them. I shot my battle frame, who you can just see one of poking up the bottom of the screen here. I also shot the machine guns from my Sasori, and I shot one of the autocannons from the other side of the board. The one on the right-hand side of the board shot this way as well. Stacked up a bunch of pins, and they failed their order test. If they had passed, shooting point blank into my officer, even with the benefit of being in a building, I would have got a cover save. Well, in rubble, rather, not a building. I would have got a cover save, but oh man, this would have been a disaster. Andre van der Vils. What's the law on scenery in this game? Is it all World War II? Could more futuristic buildings also make sense? I think largely you're going to be looking at World War II, kind of 1940s buildings, but you can definitely include science fiction elements. If you look at the official Konflikt 47 terrain sprue, the actual wall sections and floor sections are just kind of 1940s style, but you've got like little control panels and speakers and stuff. And that's and as Ratman says, that's why we're using the containers. Just adding to the pool of terrain that we have with science fiction-y kind of stuff, but also as long as it looks like 1940s plus, you're fine. If you go full-on science fiction, deck of a spaceship kind of thing, you might need to come up with an excuse to why you're there. I mean, you can kind of do what you want. If you want to say you're fighting in a inside a secret laboratory that's just absolutely huge, that's totally fine as well. And that actually does fit quite well, like some kind of Rift Tech laboratory or something that is just Black Mesa levels of huge. Okay, that is actually... Gordon Freeman is a special character for the Americans. Anyway, getting back to the point. My assault frame officer charged the Stahltrooper, and then in the very last turn of the game, charged this squad because they survived, because this squad didn't manage to shoot at them. If they'd have shot them from point blank, they've got 2 light machine guns, 2 assault rifles, 2 submachine guns. There's a lot of dice going in them, and even though they've got the armor, they're still going down on 6s. And there's only 3 of them, so they probably would have gone down, but they didn't. They didn't get shot at, so they charged in the end. I think it was the last turn of the game, and they did manage to win that combat as well. So assault frame officer wiped out 2 units and pinned several others on the way walking around. I'm pretty sure the missile launcher in this squad was the one of the kills on the werewolves as well. Next image. That one. I think we've spoken about this before, so this is the totem core moving on to that side objective. You can just see the fingers of the Stahltrooper here, and if you saw that they were in combat with my Shibito, they won that combat. They wiped out the Shibito for the loss of absolutely nothing. So the Stahltrooper are moving around here. They should have come this way or this way and taken that objective, but they didn't. Bit of a mistake on my opponent's behalf. But the totem core are just blocking that objective completely. And we have spoken about this. I want to see if that's up next. That's the same thing from a different angle. Stahltrooper moving up, the officer with the Sasori. Oh, you can also see my lunge mine there, who's in completely the wrong position. Spent the entire game. Actually, let's talk about the lunge mine, because the lunge mine is relevant. So my lunge mine originally started off over here-ish and spent the entire game running to here, running around the swamp and off to the middle of the board. In fact, I will go to this picture. So this is them in deployment. Done it again. Well done. There they are. So they've gone from there. So they've started off here. The first turn they ran to here. Second turn they ran to here. Third turn they ran to here to about... No, it must have been about here. Third turn and then fourth turn. So at the end of the game they were standing here. And that will become relevant later because they have run over the objective. And the lunge mine is an infantry unit and can take objectives. So that was that picture. Here we go. I'm going to have to move my webcam. This is an important part of the battle. So this is the other side of that central building. We can see that rifle squad are in there. I think that is my officer, my assault frame officer just there that we've spoken about already. And that's the center board objective. So just to make sure you understand where we are, my Sasori here has line of sight on both of the enemy mechs. Now the spinner is the smaller target, and it has a load of pins, and it's already failed one already by this point, and it's going to fail several more. It's got at least 4 pins. I think it had 6 pins at one point. It's not the primary threat. The Heuschrecker, the Locust, is the primary threat. That on the top is a medium anti-tank gun, and it's also got autocannons. It's also got 2 arms. It's also got heavy armor. It is a big, nasty, powerful mech. It is the most powerful thing my opponent has. I need to deal with it. So I move my Sasori into position to deal with it, and I miss. Yay! I get a new Rift Die. I roll it into Surging. Now, on the Shiboru cannon, Surging doesn't mean much, except that it means you can use the ability twice without having to worry about rolling any more Rift Die. You go from Surging to Active, use it once, Active to Exhausted to use it a second time. That's great. And that is why I moved my Officer and used a point of Guts on it. So, the second turn it's here, which is probably turn 3 of the game. I fire, I use a point of Guts, I fire again. All 3 times now, I've used the ability, the Rift Die, to use the Shiboru rifle, the Shiboru cannon's ability, and all 3 times it fails to hit. Of those 6 shots, 2 shots each time, I miss all of them. Oh, Andre Van der Vils is off. Goodbye. Thank you for popping past. You're more than welcome to have a look at this live stream later on when you get the time. Have fun this evening. Where was I? Sasori, focusing on this, has shot it several times. Completely messes it up. In return, the Heuschrecker moves up, fires back, and misses. Which means that my Sasori has a 4th attempt. And on the 4th attempt, for the first time ever, I get the double hit. And that's the same picture. Never mind. On the 4th attempt, I get the double hit. That's a pen 6 hit because it's 2 shots, and then when you hit, you get an extra shot. And against a vehicle, you combine all of the pen. So pen 2 times 3 is a 6 pen attack. And then on the penetration roll, I roll a 6. So that's 12 on the pen roll. Double penetration. And on the first of those is a 4, vehicle destroyed. Fantastic, just what I need. That takes a lot of the firepower out of my opponent's force. And especially with the Spinner pinned out as well, which is my next target for the Sasori. I don't actually take out the Spinner by the end of the game, but the pins effectively make it completely useless. So, now we have to discuss the center board. Yes, the center board. Let's move me back up to there. And let's point out the obvious thing in the middle of frame that everyone can see. Oh dear. So, I mentioned earlier that I had the opportunity to charge my Officer into this last werewolf, and there was a good chance I would have taken it out. However, I had fire support elements and I had a lot of other stuff that the Officer needed to do, so I chose to move the Officer in a different direction. Now, the Officer wiped out 2 other squads, and so it's not like the Officer wasn't pulling his weight. But my fire support units, the Artillery Observer here, her ability was useless. The Artillery Barrage did 4 pins. 4 pins. 2 of them were on the Spinner, which is good. But the other 2 were easily passed and did no damage at all. Certainly didn't kill any of the werewolves. My autocannon fired upon the werewolves on the way past from an ambush. Missed both shots. Totally useless. My Shiboru battle frame did get a salvo in. Didn't kill it. I just needed a 6. I just needed a 6 out of them because the Shiboru rifle has pen 1. So that 7+ becomes a 6+ damage value on the werewolf. So I'm taking her out on 6s, and I'm getting 10 shots doubled because of the Shiboru's rifle's ability. And I didn't get a single 6 out of it. What then happened is the werewolf charged my battle frame Shiboru. And this was a disaster. Because in close combat, they're regular infantry. They're veterans, but they're regular infantry. And the werewolf has a pen of loads in close combat and multiple attacks. And just every turn is cutting through 2 or 3 of them. Just slash, 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 slash. Every time. And in return, I need to roll a 6 and then another 6 to cause any damage. So I need a 1 in 36 chance to do it. And then after that, even if I do get that, the werewolf has hard to kill. So they get a 5+ hard to kill save. And that was just an absolute disaster. The real problem, and this model here, who is tucked behind this bit of wall, and I'm over here, so I'm on this side of the board. So I'm looking at it from this angle. And so I can't actually see this model. This model is waving around a sword. And I missed it. I forgot that I'd given this the NCO of this squad a sword. Because the sword has +1 pen. Which means that the NCO's attack wounds on a 6, not on an exploding 6. So I would have got in so many more hits off of my NCO if I'd have remembered that sword. So that was a big mistake on my behalf. But over the course of several turns, or several rounds of combat, and then every time we pull a die, we get 2 more rounds of combat. Read up on the rules of that. It's crazy. The werewolf is just killing 1 or 2 or 3, and then another 2 or 3, and then more, and then more. And I just couldn't get a hit through. If I'd have remembered the sword, it would have been easier. But without that, I'm just throwing mundane attacks at it, and I just couldn't get one through. And eventually, the werewolf slaughtered them all. Bit by bit, chewed through, and won that combat. So my werewolf here is free to do whatever he wants in the centre of the board. My assault frame officer is nearby. Also, my artillery observer is nearby. Great. But we'll see in a moment how that ended. Because I don't think I actually have a photograph of this. I do not. That is Spinner. And that's the same thing. Now, I did mention a moment ago that my lunge mine was charging across the board because the Heuschrecker and the Spinner are over here, kind of behind where my webcam is. And he came running through here, and he ended the game, the last turn of the game, right here. And so what the werewolf did, when he finished off my battle frame over here, werewolf consolidated into the middle, and in the last turn of the game, the werewolf charged my lunge mine, easily won that combat, and consolidated onto the center objective. My officer wasn't able to help. The artillery observer obviously can't do anything, and I couldn't even move my Sasori into position to fire upon it. And so that was so close at the end of the game. If we'd have had one more turn, I could have moved the Sasori up, I could have charged with the assault frame officer, I could have put more autocannon shots into it. I should have been able to get rid of that werewolf, and I should have been able to take that objective. But unfortunately, that werewolf just won the game. And it's interesting to point that out because of what happened with the Totem Core. Picture of the Totem Core. So this decision from my opponent to put the Totem Core on this objective. Basically, removing the right-hand side objective from the game made me focus, or rather made me shift focus to the center. So I put everything on that center objective and still lost it. But if I had tried to come over here and deal with the totem core, I would have tied up so much that I wouldn't have stood anything like anything of a chance. But what that means is that game number 1 is a loss. And the last photograph of the game is right here. It's just on some cleanup on the right hand side. My autocannon actually ignored the totem core and the Strahltrooper here to shoot at the werewolf. Unfortunately, didn't finish it off. So, game 1 was a loss. Let's look at game number 2. Before we look at game number 2, I need to look at some sabotage. Oh, Out West says, are objectives sticky or do you need to be standing on them in the last turn? Let's go back. So the center objective, the werewolf was standing on the objective at the end of the game, so it doesn't matter. Completely uncontested. Opponent had that. On the side, my opponent, in fact, neither of us had got anywhere near that with anything other than a truck, which can't take the objective, and the totem core, who have a special rule to say they can't take the objective. They're infantry, but they can't take objectives because they're too stupid. Similarly, my Shibito, the Japanese zombies, can't take objectives. And this is why I consider the positioning of the enemy totem core. So the right-hand side objective is here, and they put their officer, Startrooper officer here. So, and this is too far away. If they'd have moved them through here, they would have taken that objective. And so it actually doesn't matter whether it's sticky in this particular game, because no one who could take the objective had got anywhere near the objective. This is the closest they got, and this is about 5 inches, and you need to be within 3. And in the center of the board, here, the werewolf was literally standing on the objective at the end of the game, touching the plastic. So there was no contesting it anywhere. Center, definitely his. The right hand side, definitely no one went anywhere near it. Right, before I can talk about where is the pictures? I'm just having a trouble with my image folder. I will be 1 moment. I shall be just a second, because I suspect I am going to have to change the format of some images. This is something that I had not considered. So this is once again something that I am learning as we go. This stream is a test stream. I wanted to test if I can do this type of battle report as a live stream. And I'm finding as I go the mistakes, the kind of the issues, the things I need to work out along the way. And this is one of them. So if you just give me a moment, I will fix this problem. And we're playing the absolute worst song while we do it. I kind of like this bit, but I don't like the guitar solo. And that should be that. That should be that. Yes. So we're fixed. Let's see if that works. There we go. Good. So, in between the missions, the first and second mission, my friend, Ratman, who is in chat with us, he found out that we were going to be fighting against each other in game 2. And I didn't know this yet. And I put and he offered, oh, Ed, why don't you put your models down on this table in the middle of the room where they're nice and convenient for, depends on what table we go to. They're right there. Yeah, very sensible. And so I was like, oh, yeah, a good friend was helping me out. But no, it turns out that it was a secret ploy. And my friend stabbed me in the back, cheated the system, and sent his Sasori to munch on some of my models. And you can see here, and you can see here as well, that his Sasori Type 7 is just cutting up my battle frame NCO. All in good fun. In between rounds, we like to take things a little light. We're not super aggressive on these games, so that's a nice bit of fun. Right, game the second, and as I just said, this is against Ratman, who is in the chat as well. Ooh. Out west, seeing those Stormtrooper beat his Shibito answers my prior question and reinforces what Mordian says. They are good for bullying lesser units, but can be handled by peer units. Are you talking about Shibito or Stormtrooper? Because I think that description applies to both. I don't think Shibito... certainly a squad of 6 Shibito. I haven't run a big squad yet. A squad of 6 Shibito are... yeah, a screening unit, not even a bully unit. They can do the odd bit of damage, but they're just not... they've not got enough to do a lot of damage in one go. Stormtrooper similarly, they've got a lot of no-pen attacks, particularly light machine guns if you throw loads of them in. In close combat against weak units that can't hurt them, that great. But there's a lot of ways to use Stormtrooper, whereas the Shibito aren't necessarily as versatile. But we'll see in this second game that I'm about to talk about that the Shibito can get lucky. Talking about Stormtrooper, okay. I've put this camera in a slightly inconvenient place because on the screen, on my screen behind the camera there, is where my chat is. So I actually having to lean around my camera to see the chat, which is slightly inconvenient. Game the second. So, my deployment zone is along this longboard edge. My opponent's is here, and we have 3 objectives. 1, 2, and 3. The closest objective to each player is worth 1 point. So, this objective is worth 1 point to me, and this objective is worth 1 point to Ratman. The center objective is worth 2 points to either player, and the further objective is worth 3. So this one is worth, to me, 3 points, and this one is worth 3 to Ratman. So I'm looking at this table and trying to work out what I want to do about it. If I can take the near and the middle objective, that earns me 1 point and 2 points, earns me 3 points. And if I leave my opponent the single objective at the back, it earns them 1 point. And so that would win me the game. And that is my initial plan. So I'm going to push up kind of through here to take this, and through here to take the rear objective. And if I can get onto the rear objective quickly, I can provide fire support over here to support the center objective. The difficulties are the building is on my opponent's side of the center objective, which means almost certainly he's going to get there first. And that building is just a much better fire support position than anything I have here. Best I've got is the Sherman. I can take some heavy cover behind that. I've got a tree line here, so I'm going to put one of my autocannons here. And up here, other than the dice, this is just a straight shot of open ground, so this is a dangerous place to go. But what I can do is I can use this building on my right hand side as a little bit of line of sight block and cover, so I can deploy some stuff back here. I think I've got 12 inches of deployment, so I think it's about here I can deploy up to. So from there I can charge around here, maybe look like I'm threatening the back objective, but actually I'm going to swing around and take the middle. It's all about taking hold. The close position should be easy, should be, but really punching and taking that middle objective is my focus. The difficulty of this comes when I start looking at my opponent's list, because my opponent, Paul, does not have a very sensible list. And let's see, if I go through the deployment pictures, we'll have a good look at his models that are very nicely painted as well. Oh, that's not great. Hang on. Give me a hot second. Well, that's not what I wanted to do. That's better. Here we go. Yeah, yuck. So my Shibito, my battle frame Ashigaru have moved onto the Sherman, and we can actually see in the background my opponent has a Type 7 Sasori in a brilliant fire support position. It's partially behind the building, so it's getting heavy cover, and it's got just this great line of sight on my Ashigaru. My Ashigaru, however, have the Shiboru rifle as well. And there are 10 of them. 10 shots. Using the rift ability. Forced hit because I was stationary at this point. And when I get a hit, I double the pen value. So if you hit with all of the shots of a weapon, and the rifle only has one shot, so if you hit, you get double hits out of it. And against a vehicle, you combine the pen values of those hits into a single attack. So the Shiboru rifle ends up having a pen value of 2 if you're using the rift ability. The Type 7 Sasori is armor 8, and so I literally need a 6 to take it out. And I think I got 2 6s. Paul in chat, can you, if you remember exactly how I rolled, I think I set you on fire. Is that right? I got a glancing hit and set you on fire. While Paul types out that response, I will go to my next image. Reset. Boom. Right. My little lunge mine. So lunge mine has infiltrate, and so the infiltrators can deploy far forwards. It was very difficult for me to choose where I was going to put my lunge mine. And what I really wanted to do was make a big deal of, Ratman, I'm placing my lunge mine right here, and make a big song and dance about it. Make sure he's aware of where it is, because then he's going to put his vehicle somewhere else. But what I ended up doing is I put it here, in the open ground, right in front of the building. And that's very dangerous, and I knew it was dangerous from the word go, but there's a couple of things that give it a chance here. Because my opponent can't get into the building and fire out of the building in one turn, because it's not ruins, it's a proper building. You need to run into it. And so, for the first turn only, he's going to be safe. However, my opponent immediately ran a unit into that building, and so I couldn't stay there because he absolutely would just get shot up. In fact, you can see it in this image. Just on the side here, these bright white, these are the assault frame. Effectively the same as what I have, a squad of 5 assault frame. I believe you took the missile launchers on this squad, whereas I took mine on the officer, but minor change. And so I had to move my bomb out, my bomb stick man out, because leaving him in front of the building was absolute suicide. I kind of had the plan to move him to this corner and then move up, but with that squad in there, there was no chance. So I move him up here, and I'm hoping that in the next turn, at the beginning of turn 2, I'm hoping I get the first order die. And I could charge that, and all I had to deal with was react fire, because obviously that's going to happen. Well, that didn't happen. I didn't get the first order die, or the second, or the third, or the fourth. And so that machine gun right there, daka, took out the lunge mine really easily. Not even a chance. Here is a mistake that I made. This image is a different format to the others, and it shouldn't be. There's no reason for it to be. So this is a mistake that I made. Because, like I said, I put some stuff behind this building. This is on the right-hand side. My Sasori is up here, firing down the length of the board. And my angry truck with all of the assault frames is charging up here. And as you can see, I've positioned it to make it look like I'm coming up here, because my opponent has some units up in this corner. But I'm actually planning on driving it this way into the center of the board. Oh, you can actually see the feet of the lunge mine just there. But to make sure that that happens, to make sure that I just don't get blown up on the way in, I've got my artillery officer. Conveniently, I put him in this bit of terrain. He managed to move up, and I moved the truck just into the right position so that I could use a point of guts, because you have 6-inch range on that. And so I moved the officer up, use the points of guts on the truck, and that's weird. In the moment, you can. I hope you can see my thought process as to why I chose to use the points of guts on the truck. But I don't think it was necessarily a good idea. And my opponent, seeing my bad idea, absolutely punished me for it. And what he did is blew up the truck. He just shot the truck, blew it up. And that means that that point of guts was effectively wasted, because I've used the point of guts, I put the order die in the bag, and then the unit is destroyed, and that order die goes from the bag into the dead pile, into the scoring pile. And so that point of guts, I used it, but it didn't do anything. And that also meant that my assault frame, squad and officer are stuck out in the open. And because they no longer have the truck, I've actually moved them in this direction up here. And this is the right-hand side board edge. You can see how it goes into desert suddenly. Computer game biome syndrome. So I got my officer here, got my squad here, and you can just about see that both these order die are down because they've just been knocked out of the truck. And so from there, my plan of moving them towards the center of the board kind of fell apart. Because now that they're here, and now that they've got all this firepower right in front of them, they kind of have to fight that. They just have to be where they are and fight it. And that's not particularly an amazing situation, but I'm going to run with it. In the next turn, my officer moves up to the side to shoot a rocket at the Type 7 Sasori, and then use their submachine guns on the ghosts here. And the assault squad move right up into the face of the ghosts, point blank them, and between the two of them, they only kill half the squad. There's a squad of 6, so I cut them down to 3. And I can't remember, Paul, did you manage to ghost dance the rest of them out of there? Because I can't remember what happened to the rest of that squad. But in the following turn, I think I might have a picture of this, so I'll wait on what happened in the following turn. The point is, at the moment, is that I moved up here rather than going towards the center of the board. But that means that as I come around here, if I am super successful, and I might just be, I might be able to hook back and earn myself 3 points on the back objective. We'll see about that. Yeah, here we go. So this is my officer who's now been cut down to a single model. Still has the rocket launchers. And my squad of 5 is now a squad of 4. But you'll notice that that Type 7 Sasori is still there. Still providing a threat and still being horrible. Ratman says they got wiped out. Was thinking about ghost dancing them, but ultimately chose not to. Okay. I'm noticing at the moment here that both of their Rift Die are exhausted, and so maybe they didn't have the option. Okay. Back objective again. Now, my Shibito here have already been through a bit of fun in this game, because they came charging up the center of the board like I wanted them to, and were going to go towards the left on the other side of this building where the center objective was, just to cause some havoc. However, with the assault frame enemy squad here, they've got no chance. They had no chance to fight the assault frame. They were always going to lose a shooting fight. They were going to lose a close combat fight. Even if they charged first, they were going to lose. So I just had to move them somewhere else. And the closest somewhere else that they might actually do something of value was my opponent's officer. Single model in assault frame with a light machine gun, I believe. I can probably take that out with a squad of 6 Shibito. Well, as I ran past, these guys shot them up point blank with the submachine guns, 5 of them, and killed, of the squad of 6 Shibito, 4 models. And then I rolled on the special ability. You can see they've used their Rift Dice here. And I rolled 4 to bring them back. Full strength. Straight away after this, once I've killed the officer, the tank shot them up at point blank range and killed 5 of them. And in the following turn, I got the Rift Eye back, used the ability, and got 5 of them back. So back to full strength. And remember that. Remember that they've been to 1 model and come back to full strength twice now, because we'll see what happens to them in a moment. Oh, the officer here actually the enemy officer has a submachine gun. That's what Paul just said. So actually the officer has 3 attacks in close combat, just like all of my assault frames. This is a technique. I think technique is probably the right word. This is a technique that I think a lot of people are going to start using. So I've got my officer and I've got my battle frame squad. We saw earlier that they were further back here. And in the following turn, I used, once again, snap and guts together. The officer moves up and chucks a rocket point blank into the Type 7 Sasori. Doesn't kill it. Oh well. Assault frame move up, running around the corner to here. Although I actually think they were here. Yeah, they moved up to here. I used a point of guts, and then from here, they've charged into the tank. And the reason why I've done it this way is because you cannot charge a unit that you can't see. So where they were originally, they don't have line of sight to the vehicle. But if I move them here, so that they do have line of sight, and then charge them after using a point of guts, that works. So I've used both of my points of guts, one on the truck and one on this squad. I've used them all on this side of the board. And the assault frame squad have now charged. You can just about see the back of the tank here. And this is an interesting one. So in close combat, every infantry model would usually roll 1 die, and then anything that hits gets combined into a single attack with the pen value of the number of hits. So if you get against a stationary vehicle, you need 4 pluses. If you get 3 of them, for example, they're 3 hits, then you get 1 damage roll with a pen value of 3. The assault frame have deadly 2, so they actually get 2 attacks. And in the errata, we've had it confirmed that deadly does count against vehicles, but the tough fighters does not. So with tough fighters from the submachine gun, I would be getting 3 attacks against infantry. I'm only getting 2 attacks against a vehicle, but there's still 4 of them. That's still 8 attacks, and the vehicle is not moving, so I'm getting 4 pluses. I roll pretty well. I get the damage in, and I do destroy the tank. And also, the Sasori here, who is shooting at my Sasori, long distance firefight happening over here. I eventually win that as well. I don't think it's my missile launcher from my officer that took out the Type 7 Sasori. I think it is the Shiboru cannon. The long-range shot from a Shiboru cannon finally got through the armor. And here we see the aftermath of that. So we've got the assault frames coming around after having blown up the tank, and the Shibito hanging out after having taken out the officer. Back to the center of the board. My opponent, quite wisely, brings in the second Ghost Squad. So this is what I was mentioning about his army being quite strange. He's got 3 vehicles, which is more than anyone else. I think a couple of people had 2 vehicles, most just had 1. But he's got 3 vehicles. But he's also got 2 squads of ghosts. And the squad of assault frame is the only kind of normal infantry he has. And so these ghosts were definitely on my mind as being something I had to deal with. And when he popped them right in the middle of the board on that center objective, I wasn't necessarily sure what to do. And so what I did was focus somewhere else and come back to them. And so I focused on the assault frames in this squad, in this building. Put my sniper into them. I put 2, I think I had both autocannons line of sight on them. And I had my Ashigaru, the battle frame with the Shiboro rifles. And eventually at the end of the game I also brought up my Sasori after killing the enemy Sasori, and they shot into here. So I've got loads of shots coming into this building, and I don't manage to wipe them out. So I take the risk with the Shibito. 6 Shibito, full strength squad against the last few remaining assault frames. I think I'm probably not going to win. I think I'm going to lose the fight. However, I don't necessarily need the Shibito to win this fight. All I need to do is for the Shibito to kill 1 model, and then that's come in my favour. However, when I charge in and the assault frames attack me, they wipe out a bunch of my models, and I wipe out a couple of his, not just 1. I get a couple in. And so we have a second round of combat, because we're both Japanese, we're both fanatics. No one's going anywhere until we all die. So we have a second round of combat. He cuts me down to 1 remaining model, and I cut him down to 0 remaining models. The Shibito won this fight, and they really shouldn't have done. That was an exceptional point of luck. And what that means for the last turn of the game is everything I have can just gun down the squad on the final objective, the middle objective. And we can see here my Shibito jump out of the building, and I mentioned twice already that they've gone down to 1 model and regened back up to a full 6. Well, they've done it a 3rd time, and so 6 of them jumped out and charged the ghosts. There's already another one that's gone down already, but that didn't necessarily matter at this point. We've got my assault frame lagging behind still next to the destroyed vehicle. Here we go. This is what I was talking about with my Sasori charging up to get shots on the building. That's the position it ended the game in. What picture was that? That was that one. That was that one. This is the furthest right corner. So my opponent has no living models over here. Both the vehicles dead. Both the squads dead. My officer by himself wandering around aimlessly, I think, trying to find an enemy to attack. And I think I've got one more picture. Yeah, here we go. And that's my close objective. And so I've quite easily got my close objective, which earns me 1 point. I've got my furthest objective, my opponent's close objective here, which earns me 3 points. And my opponent with the ghosts does hold the center objective at the end of the game. We can see it there. They are within 3 inches at the end, although this is a sticky objective, so that doesn't necessarily matter. They hold that objective, so that, Paul is earning 2 points, I'm earning 4, which means I do win this game. And Paul is in the comments complaining that the Shibito just wouldn't die. That's what the Shibito are for. I think maybe running a very large squad of Shibito. People are running squads of 12 Totem Core. I think running a squad of 12 Shibito Shibito aren't as good as Certain Core, but they kind of do a slightly different thing. They're good at other things, but I may have to try it at some point. Right, so that is game 2. There's another picture there. Nope, we looked at that. So let's look at game 3. So against in game 3, I play against another Japanese player, which is strange because this day we had 8 players and 3 of those players were Japanese, including myself. And in game 1, Ratman and Simon played against each other. In game 2, me and Ratman played against each other. And in game 3, me and Simon played against each other. So all of the Japanese players played all of the other Japanese players over the course of this day, which is weird. But you will notice some familiarities, some similarities between the board we see here for game number 3 and the board that we had on game 1. However, thankfully, I'm playing on the opposite side of the board. We have, in this mission, 5 objectives. I'm just going to move my webcam down to this corner for a moment, and then I'll point out. We have 1 objective all the way on the left corner, closer to my opponent. We have 1 objective right here, and this is in exactly the same place as it was in game 1, because this is the center of the board. We then have 3 objectives on my right-hand side. This one here is in the swamp, just slightly closer to me. This one is behind some barricades, actually on my side of these shipping containers. So that's also beneficial to me. And this third one right on the board edge is closer to my opponent, and it's also on their side of terrain. So maybe favouring them. But you can see there are 3 objectives here, fairly close together, as well as 1 kind of strung along in the centre of the board. And then this one off on the other side of the board, closer to my opponent. I think everyone who's seen any of my battle reports before will predict what I'm about to say. This one up here, I'm going to forget about it. I'm not going to fight for it. I'm not going to try. I'm not going to send anything over that way. I might send a distraction unit over there to make my opponent think I'm fighting for it, but I'm not going to fight for it because that is just too hard for me to take from my opponent, too easy for my opponent to defend, and it's only 1 objective. Whereas there's 5 on the board. I need to win 3 objectives to win the game. And so this is a write-off. Instead, I'm going to punch up this area here. This is my starting point. This objective in the swamp is going to be my center. Even though it's on the right side of the board, it's going to be center of my focus. I'm going to take kind of these 2 objectives off this side of the board. And then I'm going to push around and around here. Maybe I can fight for this 4th one, center objective. And so I'm fighting over 4 objectives with my entire force. If I can win 3 of those objectives, I win the game. Ooh. Ah, Andre, you're back. Hope you've had, I assume, dinner? Yes. Paul does play fairly well. I'm not going to say he's a bad player. I think there's some tactical things that we can teach him that will really shift things around. I think he's got, and I'm not just saying that because he's in my house and he can burn my house down, but he's actually a good player. Yeah. So this is my first focus. These 3 objectives, and if something goes wrong here, I can take that middle objective. So long as I get 3 at the end of the game, all is well. Right. Where is picture? So, I will move my webcam back up to this side of the screen where it belongs. Hello. This is the biggest threat to me. My opponent has Japanese, like I've mentioned, and they have a single squad of ghosts. And unlike in the previous game where there were 3 objectives, there are 5 objectives now. And so moving on to objectives with a sticky objective and then moving away from it, leaving that objective mine but with no one on it, becomes a real risk with the ghosts. Because what the ghosts can do, if I move on to objective and move away, It's sticky, it's still mine. Well, the ghosts can just teleport in and take it back. And so I really am worried about the ghosts in terms of the way I want to play this game. Because I need to be able to move off of objectives and leave them safe. And those ghosts are going to really mess things up for me there. At the beginning of the game, when I deployed my infiltrators, I put my lunge mine here. And I kind of put it there kind of quietly. I didn't make a big song and dance about it. I was just like, oh yeah, my lunge mine goes here. And then next order line. Trying to kind of downplay it so that my opponent might forget about it. And given its position, my opponent's standing on this side of the board, of course. So he physically can't see the model. I did tell him the model was there. I said, I'm putting my lunge mine here. I just didn't make a song and dance about it. So that maybe it wouldn't be high priority for my opponent. Now, it doesn't necessarily matter as much because my opponent only has one vehicle, which is the Inago. The Inago is the Japanese version of the Hoishrecker. So in game 1, I fought a Hoishrecker on this board. In game 2, I'm fighting Inago on the same board. But the lunge mine can only hurt vehicles. It can't hurt infantry. So the only thing the lunge mine is here on this table for is to take out that vehicle. That's it. And looks like a large run of open ground that he can run 12 inches and 12 inches and 12 inches. And, maybe. But the ghosts are in the way, and there's also units on the other side of the board that can easily gun him down. So it's probably not going to happen. I'm probably going to have to rely on my Sasori to move up and shoot it. But we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. Right. Yes, now. Like I said, I do not like those ghosts. I have to get rid of them. So, truck moves up. My officer comes over here. I've already taken some casualties. That's a lie. That's not my officer. That is my opponent's officer. Where's my officer? I think my officer's already dead by this point. Yes. My officer gets out. I use snap to action on the truck and on this squad. And then I use guts on this squad, just like I've done in all 3 games. So this squad jumps out of the truck, gets gutsed, and then immediately can, whenever I get a next order die, I can go again. I use all my firepower to try and gun down the ghosts, but I don't get very far with that. And then I think the officer charged, the opponent's officer charged my officer. I think that's how it went, and I lost. 3 models versus 3 models in assault frames. It's a fair fight, and I came out on the losing end of that, unfortunately. So. Also, my truck has a machine gun and I forgot all about it, so rubbish. My assault frame are now by themselves against the ghosts. All I care about is that they take out the ghosts. If they can win that and come over here and cause some other havoc as well, that's great. But they absolutely have to take out the ghosts because they are the thorn in the side of my mission plan. So here's my left side. Can't see much more than we've seen before, but I will point out here my enemy has a sniper. It is also a Shiboru sniper, so Shiboru sniper can hurt my mech, can hurt the other units that I got behind this, my fire support units, so it is a danger, and so I send my Sasori up to deal with that. And I'm thinking that I can move to here, put some shots off, and then kill off the sniper and then come over here. That doesn't happen. The sniper takes no damage from me several times in a row, and so I end up having to move the Sasori all of the way up here, point blank, and gunning it, just getting rid of this sniper because it was just too difficult to get rid of any other way. And what that means is that my Sasori is not dealing with the Inago. That's not great. Andre, oh, the XP in chat. It's just kind of a fun thing. Every time you make a comment, every time you like someone else's post, or every time you donate to the stream, anytime you interact, you get some points. And then if you see that yourself and Paul and Out West have numbers and a crown. It's just for that ranking. So whoever's interacted the most effectively gets the number one. Whoever's second and third. It keeps people engaged and talking. It gives people an emphasis on interacting with the stream more. I didn't turn it on. It's just a standard YouTube thing. It's always on as far as I'm aware. The stream is not... I don't have super chats or anything on. If anyone... Side note, thanks for bringing that up. If anyone wants to make a donation, I don't have any donations directly on YouTube on the stream, but I do have in the comments, so in the description of the stream, there should be a donation link there. If there isn't, it's on most of my videos, and so you can find it there. That was a sidetrack. Let's get back to the mission. This is the left-hand side of the board. My sniper is in here. I've got a decent field of fire in front of me, but it's pretty irrelevant. My Shibito and the enemy Shibito fight each other. I've got 6, he's got 12. I lose the fight. I do have an autocannon behind this bit of terrain, but I end up having to move it to get it in the right position. And I do end up with the autocannon having a line of sight down here, but unfortunately it doesn't do really anything of value. Hello, Ryder. What did you miss? Welcome. Welcome to the stream. You know what? I think I was wrong. That, I don't think is the officer. I think that's my enemy's assault frame squad. So my officer of 3 models and his squad of 5 models had the fight, which is why he won and why he's got 1 model left over. I think this is kind of a duplicate of a previous image, so I think we can move on from that. There we go. So the Inago moves up to the center of the board. I do have an autocannon in my sniper this direction. The sniper can't hurt it because the armor's too tough. The autocannon, I think with arm-piercing shot, the autocannon can hurt it, but only just. I really need my Sasori over here, and as we've mentioned, my Sasori's in the wrong place, and he's going further into the wrong place. But in this picture, what we can see is that I won the combat versus the ghosts. And that puts me, whatever the opposite of on edge is, that makes me very comfortable. The one thing that my opponent can do to really mess with my plan is now gone. My forces are kind of all split up and in the wrong places, but I now have the initiative, and I can reposition myself to put myself in where I should. RZ Rider, thought I'd missed a report. Phew, I haven't missed it at all. We are talking about the 3rd game. We've just started on the 3rd game, so hang about and we'll talk it through. The live stream will be up as a VOD later, so if you want to come back and look through it, it will be up there. So the ghosts were the biggest threat to me, and we can see that I've taken them out. All of my models are in the wrong place, but this is now the biggest threat. It's a vehicle, so it can't take objectives, but it also can't take objectives off of me. So if I move on to objective, they're sticky, they become mine, and that's that. They're mine. And so the only thing I have to worry about is the infantry that are on this side of the board behind the Inago that are going to come and have to come all the way across the board to get to the objectives. There's one just here in this building and then 3 more over there. So actually I'm in a really, really good position. Next image. I think, like I mentioned, the biggest issue I'm having with streaming in this kind of way is changing picture. And I think I've got some ways around that. I know what to do, but it's just, this is my first time streaming like this, so I haven't thought of it. So this is the right-hand side again. My enemy's single assault frame model here, dangerously close to my my lunge mine, but I think, like I mentioned, I told my opponent I put it there, but I didn't make a song and dance about it, so I think he forgot. And then we've spoken about how the sniper just wouldn't die, and so I had to end up sending my Sasori up there. And that was that one. Nope, that's the same image I was just on. There we go. Brave little lunge mine. Brave little lunge mine. So it's been gunned down into... What happened to it? No, in turn one, as in game one, my lunge mine threw the game for me by letting a werewolf charge it and then consolidate onto an objective. In game two, he just got gunned down charging against a vehicle. In game three, he has to restore his honor. He has to do well. This little lunge mine guy really, he ate his Weetabix this morning. He moves up from behind the barricades into the open ground. We know that the Inago moved forwards, and that is lucky for me because he is now within 24 inches. 12-inch run gets him halfway. 12-inch run gets him into close combat. But as we see here, my opponent is moving this model and is going to do his best to gun down my one lunge mine. He has 2 autocannons and a 1-inch high explosive blast from the main gun as well. The main gun misses. Love that. 4 shots from the autocannons. 3 miss, 1 hit. No. 2 miss, 2 hit. And why are there 2 dice there? Those are the hit rolls that missed. I think he picked up the hit rolls that hit. When he rolled the 2 dice to hit them, to roll the damage roll for the shots that hit. Do I have a picture of that? I don't. Oh, that's a shame. Two of the 4 shots missed. The 2 that hit failed to wound. And so 4 autocannon shots do a single pin, and that's it. Disaster for my opponent. Fantastic news for me. I charge the Inago. Now, we discussed this at the beginning of the stream. I'll discuss it again for RZ, ZZR Rider, because he's definitely going to enjoy this. The lunge mine has a special ability. When it charges a vehicle, it does a single massive pen attack. The Walker has a special ability, or just a natural baked in a kind of way that the Konflikt 47 works. If infantry charge a Walker, the Walker gets all of its close combat attacks first. However, the Walker gets all of its close combat attacks in the first round of combat, and the lunge mine doesn't fight a round of combat. It moves in and immediately triggers its ability. The way we played it on the day is that the lunge mine charges, blows up, gets its attack. Lunge mine dies as it always does, but it does get its attack in without the Walker ever getting to fight it. We've spoken about this afterwards, and we still think that's the correct way to play it. We have someone has sent an email off to Ward. Hopefully we get a confirmation that is correct. But little lunge mine guy charges the Inago, automatically hits, massive damage on the pen value. I think I get a double pen, and I do destroy the Inago. So the ghosts was the main threat that I have. The Inago was the second threat that I have. Both of them are taken out. In addition to that, the entire right-hand side is mine, and that's where the objective are. And so my opponent just has all of his stuff moving across the board from the left. Yeah, here we go. Here's the right-hand side of the board. So we've got 1 pin on my lunge mine for having been hit but not wounded. We've got my Sasori moving up to take out the sniper team, and it had to be point blank. I thought I could just move up, shoot the sniper team off, and then come over here with the Sasori and the Sasori would kill the Inago, because the Sasori is the only proper anti-tank weapon I have. But no, the snipers just wouldn't die, and I had nothing else over here. My assault frame weren't really going to get there in time, so I had to send my Sasori up to get rid of the sniper. I think what I could have done, in retrospect, is actually ignore the sniper. Because the sniper's in cover, it would have moved 6 inches first, and then 12 inches second turn, and then got to the objective on the third turn. So I actually don't think it could have taken that objective at any point. But what it could have done is taken out a lot of my support teams, which I didn't want it to do. So that's why my Sasori has gone over here. That's why my lunge mine has gone after the Inago. And I'm so glad that the lunge mine was so successful, because with my Sasori in completely the wrong place, there's really nothing else I could have done, because that would have been one turn just to make 2 pivots to turn around, and then a second turn to get into a firing line, and that's assuming that the Inago stays still, which it probably wouldn't have done. You see down here, my artillery observer has moved on to an objective, which is great. In the first game, my artillery observer did 4 pins to the enemy, 2 on the spinner, and amongst 7 other pins, or 7 pins in total, I think, that spinner did absolutely nothing. And so maybe you could say that the artillery observer helped, but for 75 points, 4 pins is really not worth it. In the second game, my artillery observer got gunned down before they even got their ability off. In the third game, which is this, I set off the ability of the artillery observer. It came down straight away, and I did 2 pins. However, for anyone who's seen the artillery table, if you roll a 1 on the artillery table, the strike comes down immediately, but not necessarily where you want it to. And so, if I go back to one of the images we had earlier, in fact, let's go to the original. This is the whole board. So my artillery observer started in this piece of terrain, and I've got line of sight all the way up here. So I put the blast, the center point of the barrage, about here. The Inago was here. There's infantry squads around. The enemy officers here as well. Lots of stuff that could have done damage. Now, like I said, if you roll a 1, it scatters. It scatters 3d6 inches in a random direction. It came down here, where my sniper was. And so what actually happened is those 2 pins that my artillery observer did in this game, they were on me. They were on my own units. So, my artillery observer, in game 1, did 4 pins. In game 2, died like a dog. And in game 3, did 2 pins on me, but in her defense, she did take one of the objectives because she is an infantry unit. Artillery observer is still an infantry unit. And you'll notice up here, I also have my officer for the artillery platoon is on another objective. These 2 models in my army are really kind of only good for this. Once the artillery observer's artillery is called in, it's just a model with a pistol. You can't give them the armor, you can't give them the assault frame, you can't give them a power sword, you can't give them any weapon with a pen value. You can have, at best, 3 models with submachine guns, and at that point they're quite expensive for 3 models with submachine guns. They're just going to die. Excuse me. They're just going to die. Similarly, I didn't have the points to give him the armor and anything anyway, even though I could have done. And so these 2 models ended up just being a single model with a pistol that can't do anything else. But I can put them on objectives, and that's what I did. And where are we? So this is the left-hand side of the board. Yes, so like I corrected myself earlier, the squad on the right-hand side was the assault frame squad, not the assault frame officer, which is what I originally said. This is my enemy's officer. My autocannon down here got line of sight as he ran across on an ambush and killed him. Great. Right here, right here we have the Shibito and Shibito fighting each other. I lost that, but really it's kind of irrelevant because his Shibito didn't achieve anything else. We've got the Inago about to get blown up. Oh, the lunge mine is on screen here. But this is the center objective, and we have the enemy Shiboru rifle. So this is the normal Shiboru rifle. So damage value 5 with a Shiboru rifle. And if I go to the next image, nope, that's just my back line on the left. Yeah, so you can see I've moved this autocannon to get line of sight up here, and this autocannon's got line of sight also on the officer. My sniper does get, I think my sniper gets assaulted by the Shibito and wiped out. Nope, nope, not that picture. Hang on, I'll find it. Oh, yeah, Shibito charged the one of the autocannons and killed it. But the autocannon didn't really have much left to do. Here we go. So on the screen here, so we've just seen that the two objectives on the furthest right are mine, and these are the center two objectives. So we have one objective here, and this is my battle frame Shiboru squad, and this is my enemy. This is an objective that my enemy's Shiboru rifle squad are on. So I have the advantage in this fight because I have armor and they don't, but we have the same weapon. However, these are my assault frame squad, and they've come over to say hi. I shoot everything I can at the enemy squad in here, and then I charge them with charge the remnants with the assault frame squad, and I wipe them out. So at the end of this game, not only have I got the two on the furthest right, I also have the one on the near right, and I also have the center of the board. So I have 4 out of the 5 objectives, and so that is a clear win for me. And what that means, over the course of the whole day, game 1, I lose, very close, very tough fight. Game 2 and 3, again, tough fights, they weren't easy, but I do win both of those. So I have 2 wins and a loss, and I actually earned quite a few kill points over the course of the day. And so in kill points alone, which are used only for tiebreakers, in kill points alone, I actually was the highest score of the day, but that's not how we score the days. We score the days on wins, and with 2 wins and a loss, I was actually 3rd place. And I won a sprue. Yeah. Everyone loves a sprue. Specifically, this is the modern infantry, the modern soldiers sprue from Project Z. This is a really interesting sprue. If you haven't seen it, I think it's out of production now. If you can get hold of one, some really cool stuff on this sprue. So you get 8 models, not 6. That's a good start. We get modern weapons like AKs and M16s and stuff like that. We get modern body armor. So if you paint them black, you can make a SWAT team. If you paint them in camouflage, you can paint them in various kind of military styles. But there's also, all the way over this sprue, I'm trying to find one at the moment. There are SA-80s. Here we go. Here's an SA-80 LSW. There's SA-80 carbines and SA-80 with grenade launchers. So you can make the British Army with this sprue as well. You can make modern British Army in the last like 10, 15 years. But you can also make all sorts of other nations as well. But you can also paint them black and use them as spec ops teams or like police units, SWAT team, that kind of stuff. SO19 if you want. And also, I won another prize because we have a little bit of a joke, a running joke that the owner of the store likes to play. And whenever the first person in a day rolls a foobar, you shout out foobar, and he'll come over and give you a terrible prize to say well done for getting the first foobar. And I want some smoke effect. I've got a draw of like 20 of these because I've had so many tanks over the years, but I've got 2 more. because I got the first foobar of this day. It was actually in the third game. I'm surprised that no one got a foobar before me, but there it is. There is my terrible prize for that. And so let's go to one of the funniest images of the day. There we go. And let's talk ourselves into the end of the stream. If anyone has been around for the whole stream, or if you've just been around for one, for that last game, it's absolutely fine. I'd love to hear your comments on what it's like listening to me talk about this in live stream format versus my previous video versions of the same thing. Because usually I talk about the battle reports as a video. I'm kind of planning on doing these as live streams instead, and there is a couple of reasons for that. The main reason is because I used to play one tournament a month, or less than one, so maybe 11 or 10 in a year, and so having one video per month, or maybe slightly less than one video a month, be one of these tournament vlogs was a reasonable change of pace. I have some painting videos, I have some discussion videos, I have a tournament vlog, and the cycle repeats. However, at the moment, I'm playing, instead of playing one bot action tournament a month, I'm playing one Konflikt 47 tournament a month, and I'm playing maybe up to one bolt action tournament a month as well. And what that might mean, if I made videos of all of them, is that every other week I'd have Konflikt 47 tournament, and then something else, and then a bolt action tournament, and then something else, and a Konflikt tournament, and then something else. Half of my channel, half of my content would be those tournament vlogs, and I don't think that's appropriate. I think that's too much. However, if I cut back completely on making videos about the vlogs, I turn them into live streams, I can then carry on my videos without them and have a wider spread of stuff there and have my tournament vlog as a live stream. But that only works if it works. Only works if it's enjoyable to watch and join in on. So do comment. Comment after the stream is closed in the comment section, when the comment section appears, or in the chat at the moment as well, what you think. I do need to change some things about how my setup works, and one of those is changing pictures, and I know how to do that. It's just I didn't set it up the right way. So I can certainly flip between images more easily than I have done here. Otherwise, I will be ending the stream in a moment. If anyone has any comments, suggestions, questions, or anything else, please do post them as soon as you can, because I will be ending the stream. And once the stream ends, well, you can ask them in the comment section, I guess, as well. But just while you're typing those up, if I have I can show you this. So this is one of my ED-SKaR. Oh, the lighting is absolutely atrocious here. Yeah, disastrous lighting. I mean, one thing I can do is just... There we go. That should make it easier to see. So if I put you there, and then I focus... That's better. During this stream, this event, I used my ED-SKaR as battle frame. In the last event, I used these as Shibori rifles. The only difference between the two squads, assuming you're taking the Shibori rifle, the only difference between the squads is that the battle frame are armor 6 and the Shibori rifle is armor 5. Having them as armor 6 made a massive difference. They are a lot more durable. You think that it's only a 1 in 6 difference, but it's not. Going from 5 to 6 against small arms is half the number of casualties. Half. So they're twice as durable as the Shibori rifles are. And that's not to be sniffed at. Oh, there is one thing I can quickly talk through before we end the stream. There we go. Yeah, so I'm currently painting these, and I'm definitely liking the idea of running these as battle frames in the future, because that armor 6 really helps. Really helps. And that's one of the things I learned in this event. Some of the other things I learned in this event is, if I bring a truck with a machine gun, I need to put a machine gun on the truck because I keep forgetting it has a machine gun. I think I shot it once in the entire day. It's a complete waste of time. The autocannons are actually really good. Given that the assault platoon is like 140 points, including the officer, they pulled above their weight. Sticking them off in the distance somewhere and having them lob long shots into dangerous things is more useful than you think it is. The real takeaway is the assault frames. These things are brutal. 3 attacks each, +1 pen on everything. I want more of these. I want 2 squads of 10 of these on 2 trucks. Preferably, if I can get some armoured transports for the Japanese. The Hokai, I think it is a tracked armoured vehicle, kind of equivalent to a universal carrier, a 251. I think it's got a capacity of 10, I think. And these are not large models, so they do take 1-to-1 slots. So these are great. Spoke about these already. Armor 6 is great. Shibora rifles are a nice middle ground weapon. They're not super powerful, but they're nice to have. The Shibito, I think they're a more specialist unit, and I don't know how to use them. They have their uses. I'm just not good with them. I think I might try and run a squad of 12 next time. Just max out and see if I can achieve stuff with them. The Artillery Observer, I love using this model. This was so... it was great to use this model. It's so fitting with the rest of the army, and it's a beautiful model as well. But the Artillery Observer is just terrible. And I don't think 75 points for a couple of pins is really worth it. If you get really, really lucky and actually get a proper hit with it, then it can pull its weight. But it's just so unlikely. It's so difficult to achieve. There's so many units that are so tough and so small that Artillery Observers just aren't as effective as they are in bolt action. Sniper's great if you can roll more than 3, and I can't. I'm calling this guy Itchy because he keeps rolling 1s. 1's to hit, 1's to wound. I was absolutely disaster with the sniper. On paper it's great, but rolling 1 die at a time, it sucks. Lunge mine, as we saw in that last game. The thing is here, the lunge mine has one very specific job, and it's unlikely to pull it off, but if it pulls it off, it's great. The Artillery Observer has one specific job, doesn't really have the good odds in its favour, but if it can pull it off, it's great. Difference is, the Artillery Observer is 75 points for a regular, and the Artillery Observer and the lunge mine is 26 points if it's veteran. So it's a third of the points cost, and it's veteran. I'm never taking the Artillery Observer again in Konflikt 47. Bolt action is another story. I think they're useful. Don't think they're of much value in Konflikt. Lunge mine, I'm always taking that. For 26 points, I'm always taking that. It's the cheapest thing in the universe, and it can blow up the biggest walker in the game, as we saw in that last game. Sasori, I like it. It can be good. I have the Type 7 as well, and I think I want to run the Type 6 and the Type 7 side by side at one point, just because it's cool. In fact, Ratman did exactly that in our second game. That's what we saw. I just managed to kill his Type 6 very quickly. His Type 7 just wouldn't go down until right at the end of the game, but I did manage to eventually get rid of it. So, the Japanese for Konflikt 47, I have learned some things. Certain units, how they affect the board, how they affect each other, and how they affect the enemy. Always stick together. Focus up on one part of the board with everything. because the Japanese, generally speaking, are fragile. Even the armored suits, they're only armor 6. They're not like armor 7, like Stahltruppen, the Ursus Bears, or any of the other monsters. The Japanese don't have an armor 7 option, so they're fragile. They're expensive. A lot of these kind of units are quite expensive. Stick together, pick a point on the board to attack, and go for it. But they can do well. They can do well. And we shall see next month. Actually, no. Next month I'm not playing. I'm running the game. But that's a spoiler, and I'm going to have to wait. I'm going to have to ask you to patiently wait for the video, because I'm going to make a video on next month's event. Because I'm running it, I'm going to have a different perspective. But after that, I'll be running my Japanese several more events once a month, and we'll see if I can learn some more stuff. Right, so just before I sign off the stream, let's have a talk through chat. Oh, you've posted a whole bunch. Where do I start? So, yeah, Ryder says, missed the report. No, didn't miss the report. It's going to be a video. So this live stream will just automatically become a video once the stream is ended. I'll make sure that the ads are turned off, because the last time I turned a stream into a VOD, it had like, it was 2.5 hours stream, and it had like 50 ad breaks in it. It's like, no, that's not acceptable. Turn them off. Ryder asks, was that Simon? Yes, it is. I played Simon in the third game. I also played Paul in the second game, and Simon and Paul played each other in the first game, and there were we were the 3 Japanese players, so all the Japanese players played each other during the course of this event. It's quite funny. Ryder says, well done, thank you very much. Andre says, cool prize. Yes, the I'm sure you're talking about the smoke markers. They are very, very cool. I have 20 of them. Ryder says, don't knock it. I wasn't knocking it. I was just massively insulting it, because I have 20 of them. Andre says, enjoy it so far. As a non-player, I'd like a bit more commentary on the mechanics in addition to the play-by-play. That's an interesting point. Thank you for bringing that up. So when I do my video version of the battle report, I don't like to talk through game mechanics, because that turns it into a battle report, and I find battle reports to be incredibly dull. And in the video format of this, I've found value in talking through concepts of tactics, not rules, and not game mechanics. So focusing this unit and this unit together, bringing your forces around terrain in a certain way, stuff like that, how you look at a board and how you play a game. However, just like you mentioned here, in the vlog I have loads more time. I usually stream for 2 hours, whereas the video is 20 minutes long, so I can discuss things in more depth. I have mentioned some rules in this live stream, and I can certainly do that some more. The problem is that because I can't take pictures of everything. I can't take 1,000 pictures as I'm playing a game, and so I'm not going to have every single dice roll. I can remember only so much. Even if I make the live stream a couple of days afterwards, I'm going to forget most of the specific dice rolls. But I can certainly include discussions of how the rules work and what happened and why, in terms of game mechanics, why something happened the way it did. So yes, I will take that on board for the future live streams. Ryder says, love the live stream, excellent to have on while painting. That's good news. What is a battle frame? And how many non-Rift units were people running? So battle frame, given that I have my army list open, I can talk you through this. Let's grab my arrow. Let's have an arrow at a sensible size, please. So every nation has power armor in some way, and every nation has an armor 6, a standard power armor. So the Soviets have the Mark 1 and 2, they're both armor 6. The British have the Galahad suit. The Germans have the Schwertruppen, heavy trooper, that's armor 6. And the Japanese have the exoskeletons. Now the exoskeletons come in two different varieties. We have here the assault frame exoskeleton, and for this day's event I ran my Ashigaru models as battle frame. Now they're not the battle frame models, but I'm using them as battle frame. So the assault frame and the battle frame are the two types of power armor that the Japanese use. The battle frame is actually the easier one to discuss because they don't really have any special rules associated with them. They are just armor 6. That's it. So they have to be veteran, which would normally be a damage value of 5, but because they have the exoskeleton, they become damage value 6. So they get a bonus in their armor. Specifically for the Japanese, they have submachine guns as standard, which I think is a bit rubbish because submachine guns are close range unit and battle frame gives no advantage in close combat. But what you can do is upgrade them to the Shibori rifle, which is what I've paid the points for. I've given them these Tanegashima muskets, which I think look really cool and fit the theme of the Japanese. So I'm running these as battle frame with Shibori rifles, and I think that's an excellent unit. And they've served me well in the events that I'm talking about today. The counterpart is then the assault frame. They have deadly 2, and they have submachine guns, which give them tough fighters. So they get 3 attacks in close combat, and then they also have the power sword, combat blade, which gives them +1 pen in combat. So they get 3 attacks each, and all of those attacks are +1 pen. And because of that, I wouldn't give these any weapon upgrades, because if you lose an attack, right? Because they're getting one of those 3 attacks is coming from the submachine gun. So if you get rid of the submachine gun, you lose that attack. So I would run. This is what I've done today, and this is basically how I would always run them. Assault frames with no upgrades, you get damage value 6 on them, 3 attacks in close combat with +1 pen on all of it. They are fantastic. And the battle frame, I'm going to give them the weapon upgrade, I'm going to give them the Shibori rifle. They are damage value 6 as well, and they have Shibori rifle, which is reasonably powerful. It's not super powerful, it's not game breaking, it's like a nice middle ground, more powerful than the average. Not super powerful. It's a solid middle ground, good weapon. Definitely, both of these units have their place in Japanese army, and I will definitely be running them again. I am looking forward to plastic models. Plastic models of the battle frames. So I'm happy to get some battle frame models and downgrade these, my Ashigaru, back to what I was originally planning them to be, which is the Shibori rifle, so veteran 5+ damage value, no bonus for armor, just their armor is just fancy, it's not actually protecting them against energy guns. I would love to do that, and I definitely want some more assault frames, so if there's a plastic kit coming for these, Waller's having my money, basically, is what I'm saying. These are cool. Hopefully that answers your question. It probably answers your question 3 times over. How many non-Rift units were people running? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. The assault frames don't have Rift die, but they're Konflikt 47 units, so I'm going to count them. But I've got 6 units here that are just from bolt action. A lot of people are running a transport vehicle, a tank destroyer, an infantry squad, a squad with a flamethrower sometimes. Flamethrowers and loads and loads of submachine guns, or loads and loads of light machine guns. They're fairly common because they're really cheap ways to bring lots of no pen gunfire. But you're also seeing flamethrowers and missile launchers that you can take in the mundane infantry squads, so you're seeing a lot of that. Some people have found some interesting squads from bolt action that have special rules that are kind of effective. But definitely light tanks and tank destroyers are popping up a lot. There was someone with a Stug. There was a couple of people with Paul, do you remember who the German player who had that basically 3 tanks? Were they Panzer 3s or Panzer 4s? I can't remember. Ryder says, thanks more than I thought. Yeah, so there are... In Conflict 47, you're going to suffer if you just have a bolt action army. You you really need some high pen value weapons. You need the damage that a Rift unit can put out, or that at the very least some Conflict units can put out. You don't necessarily need Rift dice, but you need to be able to put out a lot more damage over the course of your whole army. However, there are certain bolt action units that do put out a fair amount of damage. And particularly light tanks, tank destroyers, artillery guns, lunge mines, and some other things. Ratman doesn't remember. Okay. There was someone there who brought, I think, Panzer IIIs with anti-tank guns. 160 points, 170 points for an anti-tank gun. None of the conflict units can do what the anti-tank gun can. Here's something that I've noticed, and a lot of other people have noticed this as well. The big Rift guns, the Shibaru cannon here, things like the Schwerkanone, the Zukovi projector, the other one, the Tesla cannon, stuff like that. They're all mid-range. So 36 inches, 48 inches, that's it. And so having an anti-tank gun that has a 70-something inch range or a 50-something inch range, you're always going to have the advantage in range with an anti-tank gun over a Rift weapon. But also, they're so much more reliable in certain ways, in certain situations, because Shibaru cannon, like Shibaru cannon here on the Sasori, has a pen value of 2. If you get the Rift ability off, and if you hit with both of the 2 attacks, and you combine all of it, you get a pen 6 attack, and that's great. But most of the time you're not going to get that, you're just going to get a single hit of pen 2. Whereas a medium anti-tank gun is going to throw out a pen 5 hit all day. Anti-tank guns are great. Howitzers are great. And if you can have a vehicle with one of them on, or an artillery platoon with some of that, there's place. There is place for a lot of different types of bolt action unit in Conflict. And here's something that someone did. A completely mundane unit. I think it was a squad of 10 Germans with 2 light machine guns. They just ran onto an objective and sat there. It's 100 points. Everything in Conflict, like this is nearly 300 points. This is 160 points. These guys are over 100 points, and there's 3 of them. Whereas this guy was putting a squad of 10 for 100 points on an objective and just leaving them there because it's such a small part of his army, but it's a full strength squad. And even though a lot of Rift units can wipe out a squad of 10 fairly easily, it might take 2 turns to do it, might take 3 turns to do it, or 2 or 3 squads combining their firepower. So you need to put the effort in to kill 10 models. It can be done, it can be quite easy, but it's more than 1 for 1 most of the time. So yeah, there's a lot of Rift units that have their place. So, I have been streaming for well over 2 hours. The aim was to stream for 2 hours. I was wondering if I would fall short, but I have not. Clearly, and this will come as a surprise to no one, I'm very good at just talking forever. Who knew? Who knew? I think in future I will definitely do some more live streams like this. I'll fix up some of the mistakes I've noticed. And I will kind of stream for about 2 hours. Maybe a bit less in future once I've sorted out the niggles and the bits like that. So thank you very much to everyone who popped past. Ratman has been moderating. Thank you very much. We have Ryder, Andre. We have who else was here? There's some other people here earlier. I'm going to scroll up through my chat. Awesome Out West. Thank you very much. Butter Mountain. I think there was someone else. I can't see them. Whoever it was, I apologise for missing you. Thank you very much to everyone who popped past. I will be live streaming again. I will have a video this week. I promise. Honest. Certainly. I need to edit it. In fact, what I'm aiming on doing is finish painting up these Ashigaru and having this video out, because that's just a nice video to put out. Anyway, thank you everyone for coming past. I'm ED-SKaR, always will be, and I will see you in the future. Goodbye.